ones and let you know that they're still around, and bring you evidence that, that that's true. But we do all work a little bit differently. And so, you may see me do things a little bit different than the platform medium that you saw. For me, I work in my mind. I don't see people in front or see spirit in front of me. I have, but not as a general rule. So you'll hear me say things like I see, I hear, I feel, and it's information that your loved ones are giving to me through my mind. Um, and then let's see, what else? Oh yeah, sorry. When I connect with your loved ones, so what I do is I blend my energy with their energy. Um, and like I said, they'll give me information. And what I need from you then is to just say yes, no, or I don't know. Don't be afraid, if it's a no, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Don't be afraid to say so. Sometimes it's kind of like a game of charades. And so I'll get images, or I'll hear a little piece of a phrase, or sometimes it's like a short clip of a movie is what it looks like. And I have to kind of figure out what they're trying to tell me and then translate that to you. So, it's kind of like the game of telephone when we were kids. Sometimes things get, misinterpreted a little bit. And generally we try to go back and fix it. Sometimes I'm just plain wrong. And sometimes, it happens a lot where people forget things and then they remember later. So, no worries at all. I also ask that you're just, and I think you are because you've been to a mediumship demonstration before, so you're probably open to this and have an open mind about it. And just to kind of let go of any expectations. A lot of people have, like a certain phrase or something that they're wanting to hear from their loved one, and I might be able to bring that through, but if it's not in my reference or awareness from my own life experiences, I'm probably not going to be able to pull that through. So just keep that in mind too. That if you don't get that one thing you're looking for, it doesn't mean your loved one's not with you. Yeah, and let's see what else. I guess that's about it to begin with. At the end we'll save time to go over any questions that you may have for your loved one as well.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand that, like, just physically towards the end of his life, and I know this is kind of general for most older people, but he's significantly or specifically taking me to like his shoulders and the back of the neck area. They feel a little bit hunched over. Does that make sense with him?
It frustrated him madly, the whole hunch thing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I used to make him want to try and walk straight. Yeah, I said you've got to do it. You've got to pull your shoulders back.
Yeah, because he makes me aware, the shoulders, but there seems to be like a pain in the neck, like the muscle's not quite strong there anymore.
Maybe.
Okay. And would you understand that he would have been in like a care facility towards the end of his life?
A hospital.
A hospital, okay. Because I see him sort of up and down the hallway, kind of trying to walk up and down the hallway. Let's see. Oh, maybe this is the sort of feeling that I get. Would you understand that with him, I want to say he's almost cantankerous. Like he's a little. Does that word make sense to you?
Yes.
With him? Yes. Okay. Because it feels funny to me, but to see him this way. And so this is that sort of like a little bit of humor that I get from him, but at the same time, we're going to grumble about everything.
Frustration, I think you would describe it as.
Okay. And yeah, and when you say that frustration, so this is really interesting. feel like he sort of looks older than he probably is. But I do want to say he's elderly, so I want to put him in at least 80s. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But I do feel like he would have been, frustrated because he couldn't keep up the level of activity that he was used to, as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And like I said, his mind is still so sharp, so there isn't this sort of like mental decline that you see with elderly people, and so yeah, I could see why this would be really frustrating for him. Um, would you understand though that like there's a good amount of space between the homes?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not like American space, like English space.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a difference.
I don't feel like we're packed on top of each other, so that's why I was curious if this was rural. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was also this feeling of, well, there's other people around to talk to, so I was sort of confused by that.
Yeah. Space in between houses in England is different from America.
Yeah, for sure. And I do feel like he had friends in the neighborhood, people that he talked to, but at the same time, he feels very private.
He had a good amount of friends where he was, yes, but they would only known what he wanted them to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like this kind of guy who shares about his feelings and, or what's going on necessarily in his personal life. It was more of a small talk kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And would you understand that he did the same sort of work for a very long time, for most of his life?
To a certain extent.
Okay. And again, I know travel for me is different than travel for, you over on the other side of the pond here. But, for you guys, when I say travel, we're going across the country, but you guys can go from country to country pretty quickly.
It would be both for Dad.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I asked him about this, he didn't hate the work, but I don't feel like he got a lot of joy out of it either.
There were parts of it he loved, but
okay.
He would have always wanted more.
Okay. I do feel like it's highly skilled like that, though. Where he would have had to have some education to do this. Does that make sense?
Education.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Spirit's so clever.
That's how it started. That's how it started. And then you went into other areas. But yeah, we just always thought of him as an academic.
Okay. So then would that have been, because it's interesting the way he brought me around to that and sort of took the long road to get me there. Okay, so when I ask him to go back and share some memories with me, he shows me what looks like, I want to say there's this grassy area, and then there's like a ridge, kind of a rocky ridge that goes down to a beach area. Would you understand that to be a memory of him?
Not sure. Not sure.
Okay. Okay. And I want to say this goes way back to when you were that you would have gone together. But if you're not sure, that's
Well,
okay too. Um,
beach area. Yeah,
a beach area?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And I don't know if you remember this, but it feels like, we're kind of running through the water, but we're not actually swimming in the water because it feels like it might be a little too cold. Does that make sense?
A little too shallow, probably as well.
Okay. Like we sort of have our pants rolled up and we're running through the water,
You, you,
but
you, you could do that, yeah. You
okay.
ain't gonna swim there though.
Okay. And I don't see other children around, so is this something that the two of you would have just done together?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
And he's also showing me, I don't know if it's connected to this trip or not, to the beach, but like the two of you getting little treats together, maybe ice cream or something like that. Does that make sense?
It wouldn't have been exclusive, just me and him.
Yeah, but you would understand that, like, going out. I feel like this would have been very special. Like it wouldn't have happened all the time.
Would it? No, it wouldn't have happened all the time. No, it was a holiday thing,
A holiday thing.
a
Okay.
vacation thing.
And I get the sense too with him that like these treats wouldn't have happened all the time. I feel like you lived a very comfortable life. I don't feel like there's this huge financial struggle with him. But he was, careful and we didn't do those things very often during that time period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he feels to be like a very simple, uncomplicated man.
Oh no, no,
No?
no.
No.
I wouldn't say that. It might be what he'd like, but he wasn't. Yeah.
So when you would go on these family trips then, because he's still kind of in this frame of reference, was he able to sort of unwind then and really relax and let go during that time?
He probably wouldn't. He should have, but it was. He was very driven, I suppose. You know, he used to take his briefcase on holiday. You know, it was that sort of thing.
And as you say that, he makes me aware of. I don't see him being a super chatty guy with his children. Would you understand that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Kind of distracted by the work all the time. I know you said that, but not really. I don't see him being very chatty with anyone, to be honest. Kind of in his head a lot.
Maybe, possibly, yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to get a sense for how long he's been passed. And I want to say within the last 5 years. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And you would have gone. And I guess I know at the beginning you said that because you were telling him to stand up straight, but you did go and spend a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
I feel like there's even a little bit of care there.
Yeah.
Even though he's in the hospital, you're doing some caring for him. Because I asked him, I said, well, what do you want to talk about with your daughter? And there's very much this thank you for being there for him. Because you spent quite a bit of time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And again, you have siblings, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like you're there alone with him.
Yes.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel I feel a physical distance between your other siblings. Like maybe they couldn't be there, but it feels like just you that's there. And
The physical distance is wrong.
is okay.
Yeah, the physical distance is wrong.
Okay, but a distance.
Yes.
You understand a distance. Okay. And he says, I know I wasn't the easiest person to take care of. And he wants to acknowledge that. Does that make sense?
He did worry about that, but
Okay.
I do have the patience of a saint. So
Okay. Yeah, there's very much this gratitude. It looks like it was a special time for the two of you. But very much just thank you for being there.
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just, really you taking care of him. And he really is making me aware of, I want to say that he was not a person who would have been, he wouldn't have showed his love through physical touch. He wouldn't have been a hugger or anything like that. Does that make sense?
I'd say he got better at it over the.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got.
Yeah, because more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Because
Got
he's
used to
showing
it.
me like you touching him, like touching his feet and things like that, and how easily that comes for you. No.
Yeah, well, it had to be done. It had to be done.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because he makes me feel how you are so comfortable just touching his body, and I don't, I mean that in the most natural, beautiful way, and how he would not have been comfortable doing that for somebody else. He wouldn't have been able to do that.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it had to be done.
And it was one of those things where that physical connection really was something that was able to sort of allow him to open up and be more loving. And he's so grateful for that. Yeah, I don't think that he would have been the kind of guy to say, I love you, but there's just so much love coming from him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'd say that certainly developed like that. Yeah. As he got older.
Well, since our time here is rounding out,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you if you have any questions for him. Or in general.
Well, just he's not alone. I'd love to know that he managed to meet up with Mum.
I was gonna ask you if your mom had passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mum.
Yeah, for sure.
Mum went first, and
Okay.
I don't hear much from Mum. I'd like to know that she's all right. So if he can let us know.
Absolutely.
Or if
Do you
she,
have a few minutes? I could try to connect with her for a second.
yeah, see if she could pop along sometime. But
Yeah, absolutely.
it wouldn't have been her sort of thing in the past, though.
She feels she feels very she feels sweet to me, but I don't think that you would have labeled her as sweet. Um, does that make sense?
I what like I don't know. She's just the best. She just was.
Yeah, she's just like she is in charge of it all. She pretty much did everything. You know, I want to say that the love that you have in your heart, you got from her.
Yeah.
Is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Um, and the kindness and oh my gosh. So, are there quite a few siblings? Because
No.
when I see her, I see lots of children.
No. Oh, yeah. She was a nursery teacher.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
they're not me.
'Cause I'm like, oh my god, the patience that this woman has.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of 40 under 5s. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, hey, yeah, okay.
And she loved it.
Right.
She absolutely loved it.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
And she's just a ray of sunshine. Let's see here. And she has this way to keep everybody in line without being she's firm and fair but she does everything with this sort of intention of love around it. But somehow she's able to keep them all in line, which is just amazing. It's almost like it's a gift because I don't think that everybody could do that.
No, probably not.
Yeah. And she must have had just an enormous amount of energy as well, to be able to, because what she shows me is like working with all of these kids and coming home and doing, basically running the house and being a housewife at the same time. Yeah, because she's showing me this sort of typical day, I think, of getting the kids up in the morning and cooking breakfast. It doesn't feel like cold cereal. I think she's actually cooking a meal, and then whether it's oatmeal or something, but it's cooked. Does that make sense?
We sat down to breakfast. Yeah, we would have sat down.
Okay.
Not as I got older, but when I was younger. Yeah.
Sure. And she was always somebody that you could talk to, that you could sit down and talk to her. Does that make sense with her?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she always had time for people. She, you, and I'm going to say you because you're right now, but she made time for people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily me.
It was sort of like whenever she was. What's that?
I say it wasn't necessarily me, but family members and so on. Yeah.
Okay. That's why I wanted to say people then.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, because it's sort of like she's going about her day doing her thing, and then she just puts everything down and stops to be with them. Just sort of, even just sit there and hold space for people. And be an ear to listen to.
Not that I knew of.
Okay. Okay. They must be friends then, because she's gabbing. It feels like she's calling up sisters, um, on this phone, but that's okay. Let's see. But would you have known her to have a lot of friends?
She had some close friends.
Okay.
Yeah, close friends.
Yeah, because it feels like two, is who I was originally thinking of.
Two close friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought they felt like sisters, so they must have been really close.
They would have been the same age, similar, very similar
Okay.
ages.
Okay. And her passing was more sudden. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. And she makes me aware of that there might have been some knowledge of something going on, but we weren't, like, health-wise. Does that make sense with her?
How do you mean?
So let's say, like, if it was a heart, and I don't know, I don't think this is it, but if it was a heart attack that took her real suddenly, there might have been some knowledge that there was some issue with the heart, but not necessarily that it was, like a dire condition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
certainly, yeah, I'd say that was exact.
Okay. Okay. And she says thanks for taking care of Dad too. She says he can be a handful.
Yeah, I wonder what she would have made of it.
Would you understand that? Could your dad have been a little bit gruff the way that he talked to people?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he makes me, like, she's incredibly patient and, like, she was more patient than maybe he deserved sometimes.
Spot on. Absolutely spot
Okay.
on. That's exact.
Okay. She kind of jokes that her patience probably would have been very thin with him.
Oh, if she'd had to look after him.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
look after him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That she says you probably did a much better job than she could have.
That's nice of her to say that.
Yeah. But she also feels like you had a more objective view, with your relationship than the two of them. So that helps a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she makes me aware, and they loved each other very, very much. But and she was incredibly loving, but I don't know if this is a generational thing or if this is, how his dad was, but I don't feel like there's this we're giddy in love with each other throughout their lifetime. Does that make sense?
I'd say ebbed and flowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When I talk about the bright flowers as well, I want to talk about, like, they must attract butterflies, like quite a few butterflies.
We don't get many in England at the moment.
You don't get
No.
many? Okay.
But we get one or two.
Well, I want to. Okay, so
So,
well, I like that even better actually because if you if you do see one, um, think of your mom
yeah.
because it's gonna, if it's a rare occasion, especially, um, yeah, just think of your mom. Um, can I ask you, is he like? Would you describe him as being selfish?
Yes.
Okay, because all of these things that he has told me, where it's all about him.
Uh-huh.
It was him and you, and then it was, I don't see anybody else around, and then the gravestone is all about him, and I'm like, what is with this man?
Yeah. Yeah, he,
Okay, okay.
do you want me to tell you a story about the gravestone?
I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me hear it.
When Mum died, he organised a gravestone that was going to be for him and her. And it was awful. And we didn't like it. But we couldn't say anything because it was what he'd chosen. And then we had this secret plan that when he went, we'd change it altogether. Anyway, one day he decided he wanted it changed. He didn't like what he'd had done. So I helped him organise a new one. And I have the old one here in our garden with all flowers growing round it. And then the new one, the proper one for both of them, is in the cemetery down the road from us. And that's what we look after.
Cool.
So yeah, he
That's neat.
he had too. It was too basic, too plain, and we had it made better.
Yeah, it was almost like it was just a name. That's
Almost just
what
a
I was
name. Yeah,
seeing was.
yeah, and it was horrid
Yeah,
because there's so much more to both of them than just their names.
yeah, yeah.
So they've got the best.
Well,
They've got the best grave in the cemetery. They have. We've looked after
awesome.
made them proud.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you have any other questions?
No. Well, of course I could keep you here all night, but that wouldn't be fair.
I know, right?
Yeah. I understand. You got to draw the line somewhere, but no, it's been lovely speaking to you.
There's, especially your mom. I really, her amount of love is just, that she just gives to everyone is so beautiful, and your dad reminds me so much of many of my own family members, and that snarky old man attitude, and it just makes me smile and laugh, and yeah, yeah, just beautiful. Well, thank you for allowing me to connect. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for picking me.
Hi Roger, are you around? Are you there, Roger? So I'm turning the camera on because we're going to have another attempt at having a reading with Liz Murphy. Right, so I can see you, Joan. I think that's Joan behind Caroline in front of the lamp. Is it? Is Roger around? So I'll see if this time the camera is a bit more stable. Where's Roger? Are you there, Roger? I'm just gently moving the camera around in case he's in another bit of the room, but he normally shows up near Caroline when we're trying to do this business. Ah, there. So there you are, Roger, in front of Caroline now. But Joan's gone, so I can see Joan now. So there's Joan in front of the standard lamp and Roger in front of Caroline. Are you going to stay nice and stable? Is the computer working properly this time? Looks like it might be. So whatever was wrong a few minutes ago, then maybe it's working okay now. So yeah, in 10 minutes, Karen will contact Liz Murphy, and then we will. Karen's got a load of questions for her, as I mentioned last time when we tried it. So we'll ask the questions. Hopefully you can give some good answers to her. Hopefully she'll be able to relay your answers to us. Because last time when we had Liz Murphy give us a reading about a year ago, she was so good, wasn't she? So hopefully today she'll be equally good. But today we're going to ask different type of questions, more to do with what you're doing these days, where you are at the moment when we can't see you on camera, that sort of thing.
Who's there?
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi Liz, hi.
I can't see you at the moment. Oh, there.
Good.
There's. I don't know if. Well, obviously, you was so good, accurate, spot on last time. But one of the things that it's like a story I want to tell you. One of the things you said to me was, for my mum, look out for butterflies and so on. You said, did I see butterflies around? Well, yeah, we do, you know. But it didn't seem that special. But anyway, a few weeks or months later, we were on our way to go and visit their resting place in the cemetery. And I was saying how, you know, there's signs all around you, and you just have to be aware. It's quite easy to miss signs, but I wanted to be aware. So we did what we were doing at their grave, and then we're walking back, and I said, "Oh, look, there's a butterfly. Oh, and another." And I turned round, and there must have been, I'd say, a dozen. It could have been 20, all over the gravestones. And at the same time, there was a robin singing in the tree. And I thought, well, I'd have to be really dumb to miss that. But they were just everywhere. And I was like, oh, and another. And I managed to take some photographs of 2 or 3 of them that were, but even to see 3 or 4 on a gravestone at once, that's quite unusual. But to see the number we saw was just, well, you know, it just made my day. It really did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
I got my butterfly earrings in today, I think. Yeah, I think these are butterflies.
I love that.
Tiny, tiny ones.
I love that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was wondering is, you obviously communicate with the spirits, or they communicate with you. Can you actually ask them things, you know, and them answer? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, I mean, there's some things I wonder, and I was wondering if it would be okay to ask you some of the questions that I've got.
I would love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's the ones like, well, first of all, can you see my mum and dad, or?
Yeah. So so in general, I see them in my mind. So if I were to say to you, you know, can you imagine what an apple looks like in your mind? And you can see that inside your mind, like your imagination is kind of how it feels.
Yeah.
That's how I generally see them.
Okay.
And so I have seen spirit with my physical eye as though I'm seeing another human. It has happened.
Mhm.
It kind of is unnerving and it startles me. And so I sort of said, like, hey, let's not do that anymore.
Okay. And do
but
they
not
look
as-
like they did?
Not as often.
No. Do they look like they
What's
did?
that?
Do they look like they did when you see them?
So spirit uses references for what we have had in our life experience, the people we know, things like that. So But what she's gonna do is she's gonna give me references to get me to say what she wants me to say. So if I see a woman who's, let's just say elderly, I'm going to see her with gray hair and wrinkly skin because for me, that's gonna get me to say that she's elderly. Um, and for me, elderly is like over 80. And so there's little references like that, but probably not going to be exact.
So
Does that make sense?
oh yeah, yeah. And did they look
Okay.
like? So they look like they did when they left us, or in their prime?
Both. Sometimes, usually it's when they pass. That's usually how they present themselves to me. But a lot of times, if they bring up memories and things like that, I will see them sort of in that specific time period.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just I like to think of Mum sort of as I remember her when she will have been probably. She was always a bit vague about her age, so maybe her 40s or something like that, and
Sure.
so that's in my head. That's what I see, because she didn't enjoy getting old and weak and stuff. Who does?
Yeah, who does?
Exactly, who does? Oh, that's interesting. And I've got Jeremy here.
Hi Liz, hi.
He's
Hi, Jeremy.
he's
I'm on the other side of the room, and if you remember, we're filming in our living room, and since before you came online, when I turned the camera on, Joan and Roger are here with us in our living room on the camera.
Absolutely.
So they're just sort of sitting there by Caroline, and they're waiting for Caroline to ask some questions that we've got for you. So
is that okay?
I'm hoping you might be able to come through with some answers, although I know it might be difficult because they're different type of questions to what you were asked a year ago, when it was more sort of communicating with them in sort of day-to-day terms, but these questions are a bit more existential questions. So I'm hoping you'll give it a go, and whatever happens, we're going to be fascinated with what might happen. And then at the end of the session, Liz, I just wanted later at the end of the session, the last few minutes, just to ask you a few questions about yourself, because this chapter I'm writing about you and about Joan and Roger, I just wanted to clarify, your abilities and how long you've had them. I know I heard you talking then, but I know you got in touch with Caroline through some sort of knitting website on eBay or something like that. So I just wanted to clarify these things. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's great. Anyway, Karen's got some questions. If we
Yeah.
could perhaps jump in before the time runs away with us, that'd be great.
One of the things that my dad, after Mum passed, we were getting signs from her. Because she went very suddenly, and which was lovely in a way, but it's always, it was never long enough. But
It's never a good way, is it?
no, but it wasn't lingering or anything like that. And almost straight away we started, the telly would come on, the lights would flash, all sorts of things like that. Oh, actually the telly came on last night, it woke us up. At midnight, we're both absolutely fast asleep, and suddenly, oh dear, telly's on.
I love that.
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. We enjoyed these signs. They made us feel so much better, because it took me. It was 2 years before I could talk about Mum's passing to anybody. It was really, really. I found it really difficult. But Dad was. We used to talk to him about these signs, and he was just more or less completely disinterested. And he said, look, I don't think there's anything. I think that's it. I think once you're gone, you're gone. and he didn't entertain any thoughts of the afterlife at all. And Jeremy just wonders how he feels now. Now he's there. Yeah.
He shows me like, and I don't know if this is a sign that you guys, keep an eye out, because he's showing me a turtle. And I do remember that your dad was a little bit difficult in life, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he shows me this turtle, and it's sort of this feeling of like slow and steady wins the race. And he's definitely, let's see here, just a second. He's reminding me of the experience that I had with my own grandfather, where I was an atheist before this, and my grandfather was very religious. And we'd actually gotten into some disagreements about it in life. But after he passed, I was able to connect to him, and we had this beautiful sort of healing where we came together, and he said, it's not the way I thought it was, but it's not the way you thought it was either. And so I think that they do have this greater understanding, this greater perspective. And so I would say, yes, he definitely can see that it's not the way that he thought it was. And I love the turtle. So don't be surprised if you see a turtle.
Oh, do you know what? I saw one today. Not a real one, obviously.
Yeah,
Not in gold. I saw a wooden one, and it had wheels on, and I pushed it along, and I thought its head bobbed up and down, and I thought, oh, that's great. I'll have to go and buy it tomorrow.
I love that he showed you that he saw you do that today.
Yeah,
So that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. I'm just looking at this list of Jeremy's questions.
I love it.
Yeah, it says one of the questions is asked is, can Dad remember everything that's happened since he passed away? So
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is there anything specific, like he just what he's seen of your life? I mean, like, is that what you're?
I don't know. What do you want?
Yeah,
I see.
can Roger remember him actually dying? I know he knows that Caroline was there with him as he died, but does he remember that process? And from then on, is he remembering everything that's happened since? Where he is, and that's another question later. Where is he? You know.
So I like to describe it as sort of, and this is just going to come down to belief system, because everybody has a different belief system. For me, it's just instantaneous. It's like waking up from a dream. And so it's like you're here and then you're here. And it's just from what Spirit has shown me, it's this huge relief to be rid of the physical body, because it's such a constraint. We're so expansive as a spirit being that it's kind of like taking your shoes off after a long day. Is sort of that feeling for us taking a bra off at the end.
I do know. That came into my head straight away.
It's just that sort of like, like finally. And so it's really beautiful that way. There isn't any discomfort. There isn't any pain. There isn't any struggle. It's just effortless. And they are very much aware of everything that happens. I do want to say that this is really hard for most of us to wrap our brain around, that they don't have that physical body anymore. And so they aren't doing things necessarily like eating and playing golf and doing all of these things. They're nice for our mind because it brings us comfort, but it really is just a state of being. And this is something that I've really thought a lot about too, is that because they don't have physical eyes, we say they can see us, but they don't have physical eyes. It's more of an energy that they can just sense what but there is a sense very much because of like the turtle, the evidence that they can give, that they know what's going on. So that's kind of the best explanation I can give of it. Yeah.
And how does Dad think about Jeremy wanting to know more about the afterlife and using Dad's experiences to write this book and so on? I mean, Jeremy wonders, how, you know, what if he's doing it the right way and Dad's happy with it.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to do it. I was kind of it's funny because I was preparing ahead of time, and I felt like there were going to be a flood of questions, and so I sort of was like preparing to answer questions, and it's very interesting. And one of the things that they were telling me was that to remember that spirit is all around us, it's omnipresent, and so while you don't need the tools, he also understands very much that for our rational minds to sort of believe that it's true, we like to have that physical validation. But also wants you to know that you don't need it to connect with them. We're all mediums. We can all do this. I don't have any special gift other than I'm aware of it and I've developed it and I use it. But we can all do this. It's as natural as breathing. And they're there with us wherever we go. In this physical life we have, we're limited by this time and space where we can only be in one place at one time. In spirit, they don't have that. So they can be with you, they can be with me at the same time. They can be, I don't know if they're sisters, but they can be with sisters at the same time. And so it's just a matter of us moving our awareness to them because they're always there. So just a reminder for that, but he gives me this sense that he's just so excited for you guys to be exploring this because especially for Jeremy, I feel like this is a little bit of a stretch for him. Or it was in the beginning. Would you understand that?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Would you, Jeremy?
Yes. Well, as Karen said, her mum Joan died a few years before Roger. Until Joan died, Caroline and I we'd experienced death with quite a few relatives and friends over the years, but we'd never experienced any signs of any sort with any previous people. But it was Joan who started giving us these signs, or at least it was Joan when we first became aware of any signs, and we loved it and we thought, we love you giving us the signs, and so presumably she gave us more. And then when Roger died and he had told us that he didn't believe in an afterlife, then I feel that Roger sort of took over from Joan and gave us signs, and then we got this equipment, and then we've seen them on the equipment, and it's like a constant dialogue, and it's been fantastic. And yes, it's totally changed all my beliefs. I was brought up Catholic till I was a teenager, and then I sort of stopped believing in Catholicism because I thought it was just too far-fetched to believe in. I sort of believed in a God, but I couldn't describe what it was I believed in. But I believed in all the Christian values, but I really thought, because I studied sort of science at school, and I sort of had the conventional scientist sort of leaning, I think, that, you know, the afterlife is too bizarre, it doesn't exist because it doesn't fit with conventional scientific rules, and that's what I believed until Joan showed us that that's not the case, that there really is life after death, there really are spiritual things that go on, and it's then that I really started investigating, and I've just been absolutely amazed. And I feel Roger is the same, that as you said, he didn't really believe in it before, but he does now, and I feel Roger's on a mission to give us this message, and I feel he wants us to get his message into a book and get as many people to read it and see the videos as possible. So that's how I understand it, and I'm so grateful that they're doing this. I just love it. It's such an amazing revelation to me and to us, and we thoroughly enjoy it, and we're just so honoured to have them around and taking the time and trouble to show us all this. And from everything we've done with our equipment, obviously we can't have a proper conversation, but through
you.
people like yourself, then we feel that we can have a conversation with them, and that's the ultimate, that we're just enjoying it so much, and we're so grateful to them and obviously to you for relaying all these amazing messages to us. So yeah, we just enjoy it thoroughly, and we're so blessed with it all.
Yeah. Do they get to hang out with our other relatives and so on? You know, the one people, friends and family that have been asked.
Yeah. We're all connected. And I think that when we have a physical connection in life, I do feel like it creates a little bit of that love that we've shared creates a little bit of a stronger bond. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. But we're all connected. Each and every soul, I just say soul because it's easier, but each and every soul is connected. But I think that when we do share this physical life together, it does create a little bit of a stronger connection. And so, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of them as, you know, meeting up with their sort of their mums and dad and that.
Me
so
too.
on. Yeah. That's nice. If they wanted to, of course, but my parents loved theirs, so that's good.
Yeah.
And
Can I say one more thing to Jeremy here?
Yeah.
About
Yeah, please.
He wants to say that he has seen how much peace and comfort it has brought you.
Really.
Yeah, and so he's really, really happy for that. So I won't go into that too much personal detail, but if you can validate that, then that's great. But it really has brought a lot of peace and comfort sort of in your own, just in your being and in your spirituality. It's just, while writing a book, I'm sure is incredibly frustrating at times because I've tried it and so I understand. It's brought this like enrichment and enhancement to your life, and he's so in ways that nothing else would have. So he's really, really happy for you for that.
People talk about previous incarnations and stuff like that. I don't really know. Well, obviously, I don't know much about any of it, but I wondered if about souls having, or is it the spirit, I'm not quite sure, been there before in another person, and whether they come back.
So, what I've been shown, I can only tell you what I know from my own experience and what I've been told by spirit, is that our soul is like a Rubik's Cube. And each one of do you know what a Rubik's Cube is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Each one of the squares on the Rubik's Cube is another lifetime that we've lived here in this physical world. And so Caroline is like one little square on that Rubik's Cube. So when it's not like our whole soul, is filtered through this body. It's just a part of it. And so you can actually, this gets a little bit deep, but like I said, space and time don't really exist the way that it does here. And so you could be having a life from like 1800 or 1600 or 2028, or 2300, all at the same time. It's just these parts of us into your toe in. And so I guess for me, that's how I explain reincarnation. Um, because they're just all these different aspects of our soul and not the totality of it.
Right. That's very difficult to.
It is hard to wrap your brain around.
Yeah, it is.
But I don't think that that same, like, that aspect that's Carolyn, I don't think that that aspect is going to come back, you know, like in a grandchild.
No.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that that happens. I think it's another piece, maybe, that
Yeah.
is possible. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's. So, yeah.
I know it's not a very clear answer.
Well, it's a bit of a difficult question, really, isn't it?
Does your dad remember living previous to his life?
Jeremy's saying, would Mum and Dad remember previous incarnations?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that once we are back in, and actually I think that here in the physical body, we can, if we do the work to get our, it's hard because to get that human brain out of the way, all that information is there because you are a spiritual being right now. You're part of that. And so all that information is there and available. But being able to get our own minds out of the way to access that and then to trust it. That trusting what we're receiving is so difficult.
And another thing that I wondered is, you know, like as I say, the television came on in the middle of the night last night, and it's even more surprising because we fitted a special thing that cut the electricity off. So it's not just like you can use the ordinary remote to switch it on. It's more of a palaver than that, and so it's quite a shock when it comes on. You can imagine when you're fast asleep.
It happened to me too. Yeah, and I think the reason that happens is because you and Jeremy are using the electronics. I'm sorry, I don't know what the meter's called.
There's one is the one that's supposed to make them talk, and that's called an ovulus. That has a dictionary in it and words.
This K2 meter.
And then there's something called a K2 meter, which shows electrical energy. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also his camera thing, which is called an SLS camera.
And that has the little stick figures on
Yes.
it, right? Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so because you guys are comfortable with the electronics, and I think that they know that, like with the TV, if it does its thing, you're gonna recognize that and go, oh, you know, that's them. So.
And is it like?
You have other electronic stuff too, right? That happens.
Yeah. Well, the lights come on.
Yeah.
Lamps and the main lights in the ceiling can come on, and will flicker and so on. But so is it their energy that does it? I mean, because they don't flick a switch or anything, do they?
No, it's all energy. It's all energy.
Yeah. And but also then I got my butterflies as well, didn't I? So I mean I don't know how did Mum arrange for that?
So what happens is I think this is interesting. I think part of it is like they just get your awareness there. Like, you know, it could have been coincidence that there were just a bunch of butterflies and Mom was like, hey, look over there. But also with insects like butterflies and birds, they have that sort of like electrical navigation system in their, in their awareness. And so I think that the energy can be manipulated a little bit to sort of gather them in a spot. You know, I don't have any way to prove that, but based on how butterflies sort of work with that location that they have, it wouldn't surprise me if that was possible.
Yeah. In your experience, had spirits move things around physically?
Yeah. So I had a spinning wheel that my grandfather had built me, and it was probably 15 years ago now. I've had lots, but this one was one that you really can't, explain anyway. Um, it wasn't going around, like how a spinning wheel moves around. It was pushed up flat against our bedroom wall. And my husband and I were laying in bed one night, and the whole thing just pivoted out from the wall.
Oh.
And we have 3 boys, and underneath the bed, the boys would love to hide, do things to scare us when they were little. So we were like, Jake, ha ha, very funny. I got up to look under the bed, and he wasn't there. And so we both kind of looked at each other, and we're like, huh. But we have toys that would move, that like little electronic toys that you can, they have lights and things and make noise, but it's one of those where you have to actually wind it up to make it go forward. It was like a little truck. And that would go across the floor and nobody had touched it. Yeah, we had quite a few things like that happen.
And you realised what was happening. You realised it was the spirits. What are they trying to get your attention?
I think so. At the time, way back then, it scared me a little bit more because I didn't understand what was happening. I knew that it was. I sort of always joked that I was the atheist that could see ghosts, and could never. I had a really hard time reconciling the two. So I knew it was something. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was.
All right. Can I speak to you?
Jeremy says, can he come and have a chat with you now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, hi Liz, I'm on the other side of the room. I'll stay where I am because I've still got Joan and Roger in the shot. They're still around, just joining in. But
I'll just turn him round.
okay, yeah, that's fine. Oh, hi, nice to see you. Hi. So,
you like being behind the camera, don't you?
well, maybe yes, but I'm doing this with a view, obviously, to having an interesting video for people to watch later. But on that subject, as you know, I'm writing this book, and there's going to be a chapter on you and everything you've done, and things you've said today will be in it. But if you could just sort of give me a very, very brief potted history of your abilities and what made you come to this doing medium readings for people. You said you were an atheist, but you saw ghosts. So how did everything start? Obviously as a child, could you see ghosts as a child, but when were you always an atheist from being young, or what?
No, I grew up in a pretty religious family. I've always been able to see, hear, and feel things. For instance, I was like 12, and I woke up one morning and I didn't know my great-grandmother was sick, or anything like that. I mean, I knew she was old, but I woke up and I was brushing my teeth, and I just knew that she had died. And then when I went to breakfast, my parents were like, great-grandma Emma has, passed away last night. I was like, yeah, I know. And so it was things like that. It was a lot of, not so much seeing. I did every once in a while, but it was mostly feeling where, you feel like somebody's standing behind you and you turn around and there's nobody there. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of the knowing things that I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. And then as I got older, I would say like mid-late 20s, like I said, we had this house and things started happening in this house that were really obvious, and it was hard to sort of, say there's something going on here. The things that were happening we couldn't explain away. We had gone on vacation to Yellowstone and come back, and I had a baby at the time who had one of those little play tables that you push the button and it played a song or said music or read or whatever. And we opened the front door and it started talking. It's good to have you home again. It doesn't say that.
That's amazing.
um,
Yeah.
That's incredible. So
yeah,
what? So
really, really obvious things.
so when did you decide to do this as a business effectively?
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
made you
So
decide that?
I think it was 2019. My sister-in-law had passed. She was a friend of mine that I met in high school or middle school, and that's how I met my husband, was through her. She passed of cancer at the age of 39, and it really sent me on this personal healing journey. It was sort of like, well, if this can happen to her, how do I want to live the rest of my life? And so I started doing all this personal inner work, and through that, other things sort of came into my awareness. I started I call them like following the breadcrumbs, and I now know that it was spirit sort of like nudging me in directions. But there was one night where I was laying here in bed and I was watching a movie on Netflix on my phone, and it was the strangest thing. It was as though another movie was playing in front of the movie on my phone. And it was my grandfather who had passed like a year or two before my sister-in-law. And this was the one that I mentioned that we had our argument about the religion. And it was him and two of my great aunts. And they were just there kind of like, it was this scene where they were sort of peeking around a corner because I think they knew that it was going to startle me. And so they were trying to be a little bit careful. And they started having a conversation with me. And it was at that moment that I realized that I wasn't just an observer of spirit, that I could actually talk with them and have a conversation. And of course, my brain was like, what the heck is going on? And so I started doing a little more research and a little more research, and then found out that what was happening was actually called mediumship, and that it was nothing to be afraid of, and it was just our loved ones wanting to communicate with us. Um, and so I started developing that, and once I started developing and working with people, it had such a profound healing impact on me, and I could see what a healing impact it had for others, that it became almost this obsession that I needed to know more and learn more and do more. And it feels like, I don't know if you've ever had that, where it just feels like something that you have to do.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it's become that. It's part of who I am now. So
Well, that's
I love
fascinating.
that I love that it can help other people.
Yeah, that's great, and we're so grateful for you to sharing this experience with us and with viewers who will hopefully see this video in the future. So you believe in God now, do you? And when did you start believing in God, if you do?
Well, that's an interesting thing. I still don't believe in God.
You don't?
I don't. I believe that there is a oneness, that we're all connected. But and I it's still part of that learning process for me. I'm open to experiences and ideas and thoughts from other people, but I really base what I believe off of what I've experienced and what I can validate. And so far for me, what I've been shown is that there's this beautiful oneness, and I guess if I had to call something God, that would be what it is. That our souls are all connected, and that connection of all of us together, I guess, creates some kind of energetic power, that maybe people would define by God.
Yes, I've read various books that say the same thing, that God and this all-powerful energy, as you say, are sort of one and the same thing. And lots of people in books that I've read say that, as you said earlier, that the afterlife how you want it to be. So maybe this is a God for some people, or it's just a all-powerful energy for other people. And as you say, we're all part of it. We're all connected through that same energy. We're all a little bit of that, aren't we? So
Yeah, absolutely. I did have that sort of same realization the other day, is that it really doesn't matter what we believe in, because like you said, and if I had said that before, amazing. But I think that if we want there to be a God, there is a God for us there. Because I do think that we can, and again, this gets so deep, but it's so hard to explain. But I think that we can create our reality in some senses. And so if you want there to be a God, or you need there to be a God, I think that he's there for you.
well, that's also fascinating. So I'm aware that we're at the end of our session now. So I really thank you for doing everything you've done for us. And what I'm going to do is, in the next few weeks, I'll write the chapter. I'll send it to you for your approval. Make sure that I've said the right things, haven't said anything that's wrong or not in line with what you think, etc. And then once you've okayed it, then I'm hopeful that we're near the end of writing this book, and we've got an amazing editor who's Caroline's friend in Australia. And once this book is in its finished form, then we've got a particular publisher that I'm aiming it at, and I'm obviously hoping that they like it. But if they don't, then we're going to do it a different way. We could end up self-publishing on Amazon. There's obviously pros and cons with whichever route we go. But either way, it's going to be an amazing book. And as far as I'm concerned, seeing Joan and Roger on camera, as they still are, they've just been here waiting while we've been having our session tonight. I'm so grateful to them, and I'm confident that there's going to be many readers who are going to be equally fascinated. And it's seeing the video, I think, that is the real clincher. We've all heard people's experiences of life after death as they tell it, but to actually see it as well, I think is, for me anyway, that's at a whole different level. So I'm so grateful to Joan and Roger, and I'm so grateful for you for all the help you've given us. So just thanks very much, and we'll be in touch shortly.
I'm just going to...
So Caroline's just going to finish off. So bye,
turn you
Liz.
around so I can see you. Yeah, thank you ever so much, Liz. It's
You
been
are so welcome.
fantastic, and I hope we can keep in touch. Because you certainly give people a lot of comfort with what you can see and hear and so on, and pass on to us. So that's great.